And we are live. Welcome to another episode of the New York Information Security Meetup, virtual one, of course. And I have the great pleasure to introduce Olivia Rose, who's the Vice President of IT and Security at Amplitude. Welcome, Olivia. How are you?
Hello. I'm also the CISO.
Among
Don't
other
forget
things.
that part.
No, of course, of course. I'm so excited to get people that have done so much in cybersecurity and have the ability to share some of the experiences with the audience because it's not a trivial journey to become a CISO.
Yep.
And there's a lot of trial and tribulations. It's almost like building a startup. It's not like a straight up line. It's going up and down, and it's always some sort of breakout point. So if you don't mind, how did you get started in this particular space? Maybe we start there.
Of course, it's a long story, but I'm going to shorten it for everybody's benefit. I've been in security for 20 years. So actually 19 years. So how it started was I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was in marketing, and I fortunately got a marketing position at Internet Security Systems, ISS, which is back in the day, and it still is known to be one of the first, most respected internet security company.
Olivia, I could not agree more. When
yes.
people hear ISS, people immediately they have this almost like the best brand.
Yeah.
Of 100%, and I've heard that before. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's prestigious. It's such an honor to have been part of that company. But back when we were all part of ISS, we just thought it was cool. We just loved security. So fortunately, I was on the marketing team there, and because they knew me. And I was supporting the consulting services team there. And I realized one day that I was doing a lot of their reporting for them, for the consultants, and a lot of their research for them, specifically into HIPAA and PCI at that point, which were becoming really, really hot. And they were making a lot more money than I was. And so we're talking a lot more. And so I was like, wow, I want to go be a consultant. I can do it. Why not? And
all about the money.
Yeah. I mean, I was early, young. I didn't have a family. I could travel. I could make a hell of a lot more money. Right? And I was already doing some of the work. So so fortunately they knew me already. And so I became a consultant, and I stuck with consulting for a very long time, and then moved into advisory CISO types of roles, including owning my own company at one point to do it. And that was just fascinating work. So then I thought, it's a couple of years ago, it was just time to go do it myself. And I think that I actually left that too late. I should have jumped sooner to go do it myself. But, whenever it happens, right? And so I went and became the CISO at Mailchimp here in Atlanta, which is a very well-known brand name, especially for small to medium-sized businesses. It's a global marketing campaigns company. And then now I am, I also have taken on IT as well. So now I own security and IT, the CISO as well for Amplitude, which is the market-leading product analytics company out there today. So we basically help companies determine who buys what, and we're able to give them pinpointed customer data to help improve their buying behavior.
And Olivia, what's amazing about this story in particular is that your formal education university was Bachelor of Arts, right?
Actually, women's studies.
Okay. And people always sometimes ask me, like, what do you recommend I should go to school for? And I think it doesn't really matter, if you have and this is what I want to, okay, you're nodding your head. Why don't you you go ahead and you mention what you feel about this.
It doesn't, as a hiring manager who has hired many, many people and looked at hundreds of resumes, it doesn't matter. I don't even care if you go to school. One of my big spiels that I'm often on a soapbox about is you don't need a 4-year education. You need experience. A 4-year education is not readily available to everyone. And more across the industry, hiring managers are understanding this. And you have a whole group of people, minorities, right, who may not, and of course it goes across all young people, but may not have the ability to go to 4-year colleges. Not all families have the funds to send children to school. And that definitely impacts the ability of those who are able to even get into the field. If you put job requirements as requiring a 4-year degree. So I don't care about 4-year degrees. Nobody really cares about 4-year degrees.
I couldn't agree more. And and I have a 4-year computer science degree, which I paid dearly. And I can tell you there's an explosion as well in tuition fees. So it's like, it's not, what it costs to take to get a 4-year degree, like, 10, 15 years ago, is exponentially higher. So this is phenomenal. What about hiring potentially people with checkered past? I interviewed a past hacker that have had difficulties finding a job, specifically because he had the kind of different past than normal. And then he mentioned as well, as if you look at hackers, they have that kind of cultural affinity to sometimes to weed and some other type of substances, and they're not always conform to legality. So what's your take about that?
I think it depends on the role. So governance, risk, and compliance, that side of the house, I kind of need someone who follows the rules.
I love that, Olivia. You don't mince words. That's awesome.
Hackers, though, it depends on the person. So I would be interested. If, let's say, somebody's an ex-hacker and maybe putzed around in some areas that they shouldn't have been putzing around in. If you're from a nation state, but it depends what you did. It depends. If you were 18 years old and you were hacking into your college to change grades for you and your friends, I think that's kind of funny, actually, personally. And as long as you're not going to do that anymore, that's great. I would hire you. If you were somebody who hacked into a hospital and changed medical records for people so it impacted lives, I think that would be more of a problem. And to me, that is a personality concern rather than, an ethical concern rather than a ability concern.
Totally. So why don't we dive a little deeper into, since you were a hiring manager, you still are a hiring manager, and you have such diverse background and experience, how do you then measure the aptitude, and the fit between the person you're looking for and specifically that role? And from your experiences, what were your best hires? And then maybe if you have an example of, the flip side of a hire didn't work out, what do you think was the cause for that?
I would say my hires typically do work out. And I don't say this in a boasting way. Anybody who doesn't work out tends to be there before I got there. So we're not aligned from the beginning. And we don't ever get aligned. And so one of us has to go if they don't improve, unfortunately. But that's after a long battle of trying to work it out, of course, and so on. But it's what I look for is, of course, understanding of what you're supposed to be doing and experience there. So a solid understanding. But I also look for the ability to stretch and meet stretch goals. You can be challenged. I could throw something at you, you're going to catch it. And you toss it back. You challenge me. I like to hire people who are a hell of a lot smarter than I am, and who are really, really good at doing things that I'm not so strong at. A lot of it has to do with your excitement, your enthusiasm, your drive, your dedication. And a lot of it also has to do with your reputation in the field, because if you're a senior level, we're definitely connected via somebody. This is a very small field at the end of the day. So people ask around about, people ask people who know you about your reputation, and how you were and how you acted and how you performed. So I also like to get personal references as well from people. So I just made a couple of incredible hires, and they were done that way. I knew of them through other people. I knew them actually beforehand, though I hadn't really had a strong relationship with them. I'd heard about them, through the grapevine, and then the need opened, and I reached out to them and I said, hey, I want to talk with you. We talked, and I saw that fire, that excitement, that passion in them, and it was a done deal.
So that's amazing. Yeah. So the excitement is a big piece of it, and I think that's something that doesn't necessarily um, translate through a traditional resume.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Well, actually, it does.
Okay, so tell me.
It does for me. It does for me. You can always tell when somebody has a deep love for security. You can always tell. You can always tell someone who lives and breathes it. And in I call them newbies, the newcomers to the field. In their resumes, it should manifest itself and shows itself by the extra experience they've gone. They've gone to set up the wireless internet at their church, for example, or their synagogue, or they've set up, or they've helped a neighbor secure their wireless internet. I mean, all of this counts as experience. And you can see someone who does labs on their own time to learn random security skills and better themselves, who's studying for the Security Plus on their own time, who have managed to get it, who changed careers and managed to get the Security Plus. You can see that drive and that excitement. It's not just a job for them. And they're also willing to do anything it takes to get into the field. You can always pick up for me. It's a little harder when they get a little more mature in the field, because people tend to put their experience more, but you can always sense when somebody is truly just excited to be included in the game.
Totally. I agree with that statement as well. It takes, it takes dedication. And what's interesting is as well is that the skill set you learn right now are, it's a moving target, right? Even for yourself as a CISO, like how do you keep abreast of the constant changes, the new things that come down? Because you're so busy on day to day, you have different roles, and then how do you keep up with everything? I mean, it's almost an endless barrage of new information, new vulnerabilities, new tools. I mean, it's just as endless. I mean, how do you keep up with that?
I like to look at themes, trends. I funnel down my resources. I have a select few that I guess you could say listen to or read. Yeah, you'll drive yourself crazy. And you have to give yourself, first and foremost, a break, that you cannot keep up with all aspects of security. You just can't. If you're not an application security person, don't keep up with those types of vulnerabilities. Leave it to somebody else.
Makes total sense. And then from a perspective of the shortage of gap, skill gap. I mean, we hear that all the time, but yet, I talk to as you mentioned, newbies, and they have a hard time getting that first role due to lack of experience. So you mentioned, and I really like that. You mentioned that the ability to, for example, pick up like personal projects, and it doesn't matter what those are. But what else would you recommend to someone who's just starting out and maybe have taken a plus certification, or some sort of courses, or security boot camp and so on? What would you recommend for somebody like that is trying to break into, or even laterally, just somebody who's done something else like you did? You were a marketer, and then you decided that marketing is great, but you need to to do more. So what do you recommend for there? And by the way, it takes a huge amount of courage to do that. It's again, it's not trivial to see an opportunity and jump on it. And you mentioned at the time you were, single, you were, no family. It was easier for you to do, but regardless, it's not something that everybody does. A lot of people are comfortable, doing the same thing. So what would you recommend for somebody just starting out and trying to break into the space?
Well, if you're uncomfortable doing it, you're never going to get anywhere. So there's your answer for that one. Get over it. That's what I say. So there are two ways to I talk about this a lot. There are two ways to get a job in security if you are a security newbie, whether you're changing industries or you're new. There's two ways: experience and networking. Simple as that. It's not education. Don't go get your master's or PhD. There are so many people who come up to me a lot who are angry and they say, I got my master's. And I said, well, you shouldn't have done that. And then they get all upset. I'm like, well, what do you want me to tell you? Those years that you spent, that effort and that money, do you realize what kind of experience you could have gotten? That's what I would urge you for. And I'll tell you why it's experience, because I'm going to use the example of a breach. So we're in a breach situation. I don't have time for people who are afraid to jump in, to do something. Just do something to stop the bleeding, right? And to protect the company. That's what we're here for. I don't have the patience or time for somebody who is educated, who does not have experience, to go look up in a book what they're supposed to do. I need someone that even if they do not know what to do, they still jump in and figure it out. And people with experience have much more of a tendency to do that and drive to do that. So experience is critical. You can get experience in so many ways that I find also that people think the only way to get experience is to intern somewhere or actually get an entry-level job somewhere. And that's experience. Sure, nothing can beat having an internship or prior experience on your resume as experience. Absolutely 100%. However, if you can't get one of those roles, which is often the case nowadays, then get that experience somehow. Again, like I said, go set up somebody's wireless network. Go write policies for like a small shop or a company. Go to your place of worship and
totally.
Teach a class.
And Olivia, there's no lack of need and help needed.
Absolutely not.
You can go into your, whatever shop you frequent.
Yes.
And say, hey, do you guys need some assessment? I can look into what you guys are doing from a cybersecurity perspective.
Yes. Whatever you want to do. There's so much, and you might think these are little things, right? It can take you 10 minutes to set up somebody's wireless security and encryption, right? 10 minutes. It probably takes me an hour, but 10 minutes. But those little things, put them on your resume. Show that you went out and you did something. Labs count as experience too. Take labs. Go do something. And I also find the second half of that equation is the networking, connections. You get security jobs through connections, unless you're extremely lucky. You get them through connections. That's how this industry works. And I have heard people gripe all day long about, my family doesn't know anybody, or, nobody's helping me out or anything like that. That's just complete and utter BS, because I grew up with zero connections and I made my way. So a great way to get them is to volunteer for these events like ISSA, your events. Talk to David and just say, hey,
100%.
Can I help you out? Can I give out badges at the door? And go to volunteer at RSA, which is our biggest one, pretty much, questionably, right? Go volunteer. Go be at the speaker's lounge. you will meet all these security people. And then it's up to you to reach out to them, because they're not going to come talk to you. Go talk to them. And if you click, ask, hey, can I reach out to you on LinkedIn? Can we talk in a month? I would really love to pick your brain on X, Y, and Z. Talk to people, gather up your crowd that way, and people will think of you. But if you're just, kind of moaning and groaning that you don't know anybody, that's completely false. And I'll just end it by saying, the security people, except for a very few, when it's the ones who do highly technical stuff, who like to be, they're more loners, great people, very friendly, but they tend to be more focused on what they're doing, the details. Pretty much everybody in this field is incredibly friendly and very giving. I mean, if you think about what we do day in and day out, we live and breathe protecting people. We live and breathe protecting you and making the world a better place. So if you come up to us and you are humble, you don't act like you know everything, you ask questions, you're interested, you're enthusiastic. Next time we connect on LinkedIn, you say, hey, I did what you recommended. I learned something. I would be, oh, nice. Right?
Yeah, but
that's how you do it.
Yeah, it takes getting out of the comfort zone, which I think that's where you summed it up before.
Yeah.
Even going out there and asking for help, and I agree, and it's too bad that I agree on all those things. It's not necessarily that interesting. But I agree that this industry is full of people that are really, helpful. What I found just starting
super
out,
nice.
if you ask for, yeah, super nice people.
Yeah.
And listen, Olivia, so I also noticed that you invested in a lot of certifications. Like you really went out and got the major ones. I mean, you've in you, my first of all, maybe why did you decide to go ahead and pursue those? And secondly, where do you start? Let's say if you only have the time to do a couple, what would you recommend that someone would take, and do in the next 6 to 8 months?
So to be very honest, as I tend to be, surprise. So I had to get certifications for the first 10 years of my career, even longer, probably 15, to be honest, which is really sad when you think about it, because I am not a white male. Putting it bluntly. And when I was, 18, 19 years ago in security, there were so few women. I mean, I used to go to the PCI, the PCI Council annual meeting, and it was like 5 of us sitting in this massive room, and we all would hang out together because, I had to, because when I met other security people or customers, they would look at me with this, they would be nice and welcoming, of course, but they would always be this sense of, she's different. And the first thing I always would do was to hand out my business card, which had all my certifications on it. And they would look at it and they would go, okay, we'll give her a shot, a fair chance. And then I would have to work to get that chance. It's not given it still isn't, to women and minorities in this field. You were not given fair shakes when you walk through the door and meet somebody. It's as simple as that. You always have to work, if you fall in one of those groups, to get their respect. That's the way it is. And it's sad. And a lot of people, myself included, are working on fixing this problem in this industry, but it persists. So I had to get all those certifications. And that's why I have so many of them. But the first one, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just say, yeah, it makes, and this is a very honest response. And I love that, because it's very true. But, things are, I think, at least in my perspective, the way I see things, it's improving. We're not there yet by any means, but we are we are way ahead where we were like 10, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Way ahead.
Oh yeah.
Even the number of women in the industry have gone up exponentially to like 20, 25% now,
Mm-hmm.
which is again way better than 5%. So exponentially like
Yes.
grown, but we're not there yet. And it's amazing so that you've put in all the effort to contrast that,
Mm-hmm.
the inequality. And again, instead of complaining about it, Olivia, you went ahead and did something about it
Well,
and
I complained
enhanced.
about it, trust me, but
No, I know, but
but
the
you have to go through
complaining,
at.
yeah, you did
Yeah.
both, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to
Yeah.
it's one thing to complain about and not do anything,
Yeah.
but there's, and I find that's refreshing because you went ahead and did that, and today you're a CISO, and it's behind you, as you mentioned. You don't necessarily have to go and get certifications anymore,
Well,
but or I don't know. You still find
I
that
like
that
I like
people still
to.
question you?
Well,
No, I know, but they
no,
don't question you
well,
anymore.
this is what's interesting
Hmm.
is when I got my CISO job, the first one at Mailchimp, I was filling out my business card request. And for the very first time, and it was 17 years at that point, for the first time in 17 years, I did not put my certifications on my business card. And it took that long to feel confident about it. And so I think it's critically important for people who have been around for a while in this industry to mentor others and level the playing field. And as you were mentioning, continuing this work that we're doing to reduce these barriers. I mean, these expectations and this bias that's there, because the bias is there, and it's not hard to find a woman to hire in security nowadays. There really isn't. You got to try a little harder, but it's still not hard. There are many women coming into this field, which is fantastic. However, a lot of them leave in droves because working in this field, it's tough sometimes. You can get lucky and you can find a company right off the bat and stay with that company. But I mean, I personally have had to leave two companies, and I won't say which ones they were. I have had to leave two companies because of bias and sexism that was displayed towards me. I had to leave. Those companies are still functioning. They're great. Nothing
Well,
happened to them.
but it's their loss, though, I think.
Well, thank you. But
You know.
they don't think so, and that's okay. But you know, my mentality always was, nobody's gonna kick me out of this field. I'm just gonna go find another job. But there are many women who decide to leave the field altogether. It's just not worth the hassle. And I can't blame them. I mean, some of the hassle is whew. So it's really sad. So it's important, especially for allies. If you're in the majority, if you see something going on, this unconscious bias, or these comments that are made or actions that are made towards people who can't speak up for themselves, it's critically important to speak up for them. And you'll trust me, you're not overstepping. You will be greatly appreciated by that person.
Totally. And it's funny, looking back, since I've been hosting events since 2013, in-person events in New York City, and halfway through, I noticed that I have a lot more male speakers, and I purposely went ahead and invited more women to
That's
participate as
great.
speakers, and
See?
and what I found, it was really interesting, is that the crowd became more diverse as well. And
Yes.
so it was really a win-win-win, because it wasn't just a speaker, but also the people that came. And then it was difficult at first, but I find now it's easier. As you mentioned, there are more women in the field. It's easier for them to take part. But I still find it's really interesting. I guess it depends on the DNA of the company that you
Mhm.
join as a woman.
Yeah.
And and I suspect that, if there's bias towards that, there's also, there's other areas
Yeah.
of difficulty. So it's not just that. So my concern is not necessarily just the fact that they're, biased towards women or minority or whatever. It's also the fact that there's some other issues with the company, because,
Yes.
honestly, I've worked with women in the past, and I couldn't care less. their gender, color, or whatever. I mean, it's all the same to me. And I typically don't even bring it up, Olivia, as you saw, you're a CISO
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
and the fact that you're a woman is just in the industry is just the second thing to me. So it makes no difference. But I really like your approach, and I think you are probably a role model for a lot of women that are getting into the space. And
Yeah.
I would suggest to anybody who's watching it to possibly reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And as you seem to be wanting to give back to the community and be a mentor for a lot of women and minorities who want to get into the space.
Yeah.
So what did you find it from all those certification? Which one was the most useful for you, like to get that credibility?
For me personally, it was the CISSP, because that was my entry dues to get into becoming a consultant at ISS. The VP of consulting said, get your CISSP. And so I had no idea what it was. And I said, absolutely. And I passed it. And he called me that
Like
day,
the
found out, and
yeah,
he offered me a consulting job. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, I knew you had no idea what it was. I said, if she passes it on the first try, I'm going to hire her.
it's like the movie with Jim Carrey, like just say yes.
Yeah, just yes. Sure, figure it out. Can't be that hard. And then I
So
got the book, and it's like, the Sean Harris book is like this big. It's like, oh my God. But
yeah, it's funny. I've done that as well years ago, and I remember studying for it. It's yeah, those books are not for the faint of heart sometimes.
yeah.
I agree with you there. So from a next step perspective, since the industry is changing so much, right? What are kind of exciting new roles that you feel are going to be much in demand? If you, because you have to kind of skate to where the puck is, not where the park is right
Yeah.
now. Um, and if you could recommend a particular subject and topics to become more proficient in, what would that area would be?
Well, I love this question because I do get this a lot. I mentor a lot of people, and so I get this all the time. And the question is, what can I do in security? Because I'm not technical, and I wasn't a technical person, and I learned it. I'm still not a technical person. I mean, I'm a strategic and governance and a leader kind of person. I'm not a technical person. So it the skills that you need, where you can find what your spot is, where the industry's going, is that if you're interested in becoming a leader in security or a CISO, you have to have these soft skills, and that's where the industry is going. And this is a recent development, just like 3 to 5 years, because before it was all about being technical. You had to know technology to lead, and people began to realize that you really need to have people skills and communication skills and collaboration skills, and most importantly, you need to have persuasive and influence skills, and those are critically important as a CISO, because you need to meet with product teams, for example, and have them do things that they don't necessarily want to do. And so it's kind of a give and take a little bit, because they're trying to launch features and you're trying to go in and slow them down, right? And so it's a balance. You have to be able to collaborate and figure that out and partner. And to be a CISO as well, you have to have, if you're not technical, have a really, really in-depth understanding of governance, risk, and compliance, and privacy. That's big nowadays too. If you're really strong on that side, at least have a 10,000-foot view as to how all the pieces of the technical side fit together. So you can roadmap. You're not just stuck on one side. That's critically important. So where everything is going is somebody who can straddle kind of both sides of the fence of those two areas. and he was able to collaborate and communicate. And don't underestimate your people skills. If you're an extrovert and you're in security, you are very valuable nowadays. And don't underestimate yourself just because you're not a technical person.
Yeah, and we get that a lot. You're right. We get that question a lot, whether we should be only technical.
Yeah.
But soft skills sometimes are hard. So how do you train that aspect of, if you wanted to, again, you've done your certification and whatnot and learn and got some exposure to different roles and so on.
Yeah.
How do you improve on the kind of the soft skills side of the house? What would you recommend for someone?
Well, to some it comes more naturally. If you find you have to improve them, you have to understand how to be vulnerable. You have to be open. You have to be willing to be in somebody else's shoes. You have to be very open-minded about that, because everybody has a reason for wanting what they want. And the only way you're going to get to a conclusion that makes you both happy is to figure out what they want. And so you can collaborate that way. There's so many great resources on YouTube and LinkedIn. I mean, it's so many. Just the key ones that you should just, presentation skills, huge. Know how to present and tell a story. Another one would be influencing and persuasive. So negotiation skills. Another one would be just communication, written communication. Know how to communicate your ideas and what you want in a very succinct manner, because people don't have time to read a story. They don't, about what you want. And another one, if you find yourself lacking in this area, there's a great TED Talk by Brene Brown on vulnerability. Go watch it and go learn from it and practice it in your life, because you need to have these skills as a CISO to be successful.
Right, and I love the fact that you mentioned as part of leadership is to find out what the other person wants and align yourself with those, because, and it's not trivial. Again, they're not going to tell you right off the bat, and you
No.
have to have that emotional intelligence to figure out what it is that they want. And then once you align it, and then for you as a manager today, and you have a team of people, and you manage group and so on, it's very, very important to be able to be successful. And that's true for not just cybersecurity, but just in general. So I think those skill sets are hard to come by as well.
And that's another great one, EQ, emotional intelligence, critically important. And finally, a great book to read, and you are, it's sexist as hell, so overlook all that, and because it was written in the 20s. Dale Carnegie's book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. Read that book. It's all about how to make people like you and be open to giving you what you want. And another great book, if you are starting, actually have it here because I need to reread it, is this book. Can you see it? How to Be Great at Your Job. And it's by Justin Kerr, Kerr. It's like $10 on Amazon, and you read it all in one day. But it's the basics of how to do your job right, how to communicate, how to report up to your boss, that kind of thing. Basic stuff that a lot of people nowadays who are coming into the field just don't know. So get this book if you're a newbie. And I read it too.
Yeah, Olivia, it's so great. Listen, I very much appreciate you joining. Maybe we should do another session on a couple other topics. I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface on a couple of topics that we covered today. We covered so much. And it's amazing that you give back. And again, going outside of the comfort zone and participating in these type of events. I've started going back to New York and doing physical events. Maybe potentially you'll have, if you travel, and I'm sure you do, come back to New York. We'll do one of these sessions in person. So what's the best way for folks to reach out to you for advice, for just a kind word, or whatever the case may be? What's the easiest way?
Pretty much just LinkedIn. You can find me, Olivia Rose, ROSE. I like to post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn that's helpful for newbies, so follow me. I'm starting to do monthly working sessions for 100 people at a time. I have one coming up tomorrow, just on what your brand is, because people don't know what their brand is. So if you don't know who you are, a hiring manager is surely not going to know where to put you in their organization. So that's critically missing too, and how to weave that into LinkedIn and so on.
That's so great. How do you find that event? So talk to me about the event.
Well, it is full. I have 100 people.
Oh,
so, but follow me on LinkedIn, and this is the first one, and so I'll do it again. I'm not going to record it because it's a working session, but I'll do it again. But I'll post it. But just so reach out to me there, and if you do email, I love that people email. I just get a lot of emails, so it might take me a little time to get back to you. That's all I ask.
Awesome. And Olivia, I can't wait to follow you and see what you're up to next. You're going places. You are the place, but you're also going places.
Oh, there you go.
It's been a real pleasure to have you, and I look forward to again potentially see you in person, maybe doing one of these sessions again sometime soon. Thanks for all for joining, and be safe out there. And looking forward to seeing you in my weekly events again. Take care, all. Be well.
Bye.
Thanks, Olivia.